The smell of gasoline hit Bailey Monroe's nose before she even saw the car. Bailey glanced at her cousin in the passenger seat. Ariel was scrolling through Instagram, her face lit by the blue glow of her phone screen, completely oblivious to how exhausted Bailey was. "Can you drive faster?" Ariel complained without looking up. "I want to get home and post my party photos before everyone else does." Bailey bit her tongue. She'd just finished a 12-hour delivery shift when Aunt Mercy called, ordering her to pick up Ariel from some party in Lake Forest. "No please, no thank you, just an order." One day, Bailey thought, allowing herself the familiar fantasy. One day I'm going to have my own apartment. Nothing fancy, just a studio with a window that gets actual sunlight. I'll have a couch that doesn't smell like mildew, and a refrigerator full of food that's actually mine. And when Aunt Mercy calls demanding I drop everything to chauffeur Ariel around at midnight, I'll let it ring. Better yet, she amended, warming to the daydream, I'll answer. And I'll say, "Sorry, Aunt Mercy, I'm busy living my life. You know, the life you tried to steal from me for 17 years? Yeah, that one. Good luck finding another ride." The fantasy made her smile despite her exhaustion. That's when she saw it. A black Mercedes S-Class wrapped around an oak tree like a crushed aluminum can. Glass everywhere, glittering in her headlights like scattered diamonds. Smoke pouring from the hood in thick, angry clouds that rose into the night sky. And that smell. Sharp, dangerous gasoline. Bailey slammed on the brakes so hard the delivery bags in the back seat flew forward. "What the hell, Bailey?" Ariel snapped, nearly dropping her phone. Through the shattered driver's window, Bailey could see him. A man slumped over the steering wheel, not moving. Blood running down his face, dark in the dim light. "Someone's in there," Bailey whispered, her heart pounding like a drum. "So call 911 and let's go," Ariel said, eyes already back on her phone. "This isn't our problem." Bailey stared at her cousin. "Someone could be dying." "And that has what to do with us exactly?" Ariel finally looked at her, dead serious. "Bailey, we don't know these people. Just call it in and drive." For a second, Bailey just looked at this girl she'd helped raise. This girl whose entire master's degree she was funding with 3 jobs and 0 sleep. This girl who, just last week, I had surprised Bailey with a cupcake on the anniversary of her parents' death. The only person in the Hartley house who ever remembered that date. That was Ariel in a nutshell. Capable of casual cruelty one moment and unexpected sweetness the next. It made it impossible to hate her completely. But right now, Bailey wanted to shake her. "You take the car," Bailey said, already pulling out her phone to dial 911. "Go home." "You're joking." "Do I look like I'm joking?" Bailey opened her door. "Take the car, Ariel, I'm helping him." "You're seriously choosing some random stranger over your own family?" Ariel's voice dripped with disbelief. Family, Bailey thought. Right. The family that works me like a servant and takes every penny I earn. That family. But she didn't say it. She never said it. She was already out. It phone pressed to her ear as the operator answered. "Single car accident, Route 41 southbound, mile marker 23, 1 person trapped, cars smoking, gasoline everywhere. Ma'am, I need you to stay back from the vehicle. Just send help now." Bailey shoved the phone in her pocket and ran toward the wreck. Behind her, she heard the Honda's engine rev. She turned just in time to see Ariel climbing into the driver's seat. Their eyes met for 1 second through the windshield. Something flickered across Ariel's face. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Her hand hesitated on the gear shift. "Ariel, please," Bailey started. But Ariel threw the car into drive and peeled out, taillights disappearing down Route 41. Ariel really just left her on the side of the road. The same cousin Bailey works 3 jobs to support. Drop a car emoji if you're already mad at Ariel. Drop a strong emoji if you know Bailey's about to do something incredible anyway. Subscribe because this rescue is about to get intense. Bailey was alone on a dark road with a stranger who was about to die. The driver's door was completely crushed against the tree trunk. Jammed shut. Bailey ran to the passenger side and yanked the handle. Also locked. The smoke was getting thicker, turning from gray to black, the kind that came right before flames. Her eyes landed on a rock near the roadside, big as a softball. She grabbed it with both hands and swung it at the passenger window with every ounce of strength she had. The glass exploded inward like a bomb going off. Bailey reached through, popped the lock, yanked the door open. The gasoline smell nearly knocked her backward. And it was everywhere, pooling on the floor, soaking into the leather seats, saturating the air. One spark and this whole car would turn into a fireball. She climbed inside and got her first real look at him. Lord have mercy. Even unconscious and bleeding, even with his expensive suit covered in blood and broken glass, this man was the most gorgeous human being Bailey had ever laid eyes on. He had to be 6'5" at least, with shoulders so broad they barely fit in the seat. His skin was deep, rich brown, smooth as silk. He had a fresh fade that looked like he'd just left the barber shop, and a goatee lined so precisely it could have been drawn with a ruler. His face was all sharp, masculine angles. High cheekbones, a strong jaw, full lips slightly parted as he struggled to pull in shallow breaths. Of course, Aunt Bailey thought with the dark humor that got her through most days. The one time I meet a man this fine, he's unconscious, and we're both about to explode. Story of my life. Aunt Mercy would probably find a way to blame me for this, too. Bailey, why didn't you save a ugly man? You're always causing problems. Hey, can you hear me? Bailey shook his shoulder gently. Nothing. His head just lolled to the side, heavy and limp. Blood ran down his temple from a nasty gash above his eyebrow. His breathing was shallow and raspy, like every breath was a fight. The seatbelt was jammed, the metal mechanism bent and twisted from the impact. Come on, Bailey muttered, yanking at the buckle with both hands. The smoke was filling the car now, burning her eyes, choking her lungs. She couldn't see, couldn't breathe, and black spots started dancing at the edges of her vision. Please, God, please help me. The buckle suddenly gave way with a click that sounded like answered prayer. Now came the hard part. Bailey grabbed the man under his arms and pulled. Lord have mercy, he was heavy. 230 pounds of pure, solid muscle if he was an ounce. She pulled again, throwing her whole body weight into it, her feet braced against the doorframe. He shifted maybe an inch. Maybe. The smoke was so thick now she couldn't see the windshield, couldn't see anything. Her lungs were screaming for clean air. Her head was spinning. They were both going to die in this car if she didn't. No, not today, not on her watch. Bailey braced herself and pulled with strength she didn't even know existed inside her. On strength that came from somewhere deep and desperate and absolutely refusing to let this man die. Work with me here, she grunted through gritted teeth. You're not dying tonight, you hear me? Stay with me, stay with me. Inch by painful inch, she dragged him out of that seat. Her muscles burned like they were on fire. Her back felt like it was breaking in half. But she kept pulling. He finally came free all at once, and they both tumbled backward out of the car in a tangle of limbs. He landed on top of her, his full weight driving her into the gravel and broken glass. Every bit of air rushed out of her lungs in one painful whoosh. For a terrifying second, she couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The world started going gray at the edges. This better not be how I go out, Bailey thought deliriously. Crushed by a handsome stranger. Aunt Mercy would find a way to charge my ghost for the funeral. Then survival instinct kicked in like a lightning bolt. She rolled him off her with a strength born of pure adrenaline and grabbed him under the arms again, dragging him away from the smoking car. 10 feet, 20, 30. Away from the gasoline and the smoke and the death waiting to happen. Her delivery uniform was soaked with blood and gasoline. Her hands were torn and bleeding from the broken glass. But they were alive. They'd made it. She collapsed next to him on the grass, gasping like a drowning woman who'd just found air. In the distance, sirens wailed. Beautiful, blessed sirens. Bailey yanked off her delivery company jacket and pressed it against the wound on his head, trying to stop the bleeding. His face looked peaceful up close despite the blood, almost serene. He had the longest, prettiest eyelashes she'd ever seen on a man. You're gonna be okay, she told him, even though he couldn't hear her. Help's coming. Just hold on. His lips moved. Just barely, but they moved. Bailey leaned closer, her ear near his mouth. "What is it? I'm right here." "Ring," he whispered, his voice rough as sandpaper, barely more than a breath. "Center console, grandmother's ring. Please don't let it burn." A ring. This man was half dead, and he was worried about a ring. "Don't worry about any ring right now," Bailey said firmly, pressing her jacket harder against his bleeding head. "Let's focus on keeping you alive first. Please." His hand found hers weakly, and his thumb brushed across her palm. Even semi-conscious, he seemed to register the roughness there, the calluses from years of delivery work, cleaning, stocking shelves, hard labor. "She raised me. After my parents died. All I have left of her." Bailey's breath caught. He'd lost his parents. His grandmother had raised him. And now she was gone too. And all he had left was a ring in a burning car. She understood that kind of loss. Understood holding on to objects because they were all you had left of people who loved you. "Okay," she said softly, her own voice cracking. "Okay, I promise. I'll get your grandmother's ring. You have my word. But right now, you gotta stay with me. You hear me? Stay with me." His eyes fluttered open for just 1 second. Dark brown, unfocused, but looking right at her. Looking at her face. At the crescent moon-shaped birthmark on her left cheek, near her ear. At her. Really, truly seeing her in what might be his last moment alive. "Angel," he breathed. "You're my angel." "I'm no angel." Bailey squeezed his hand. "Just too stubborn to let you die. And you're gonna tell me all about your grandmother when you wake up. Deal?" His lips curved into the faintest smile. "Deal." Then his eyes closed and he went completely still. Panic shot through Bailey like electricity. She pressed her fingers to his neck, searching desperately for a pulse. There. Faint and thready, but there. Still alive. Still fighting. Red and blue lights flashed through the trees like Christmas in September. Paramedics swarmed the scene like organized chaos. Questions flew at Bailey from every direction, voices overlapping. "Miss, are you injured?" "No, no, I'm fine. Just help him." "Oh, please." "What's his name?" "I don't know. I just found him like this." "What happened?" "I was driving by, saw the wreck, pulled him out before it could catch fire." A young paramedic with kind eyes stared at her like she'd grown wings. "Ma'am, that man weighs at least 230. You pulled him out by yourself?" "Yes." He shook his head in pure amazement. "You saved his life. You know that, right? Another 2 minutes and that car would have gone up like a bee-ohm. You saved his life." Bailey watched them load the unconscious man onto a stretcher with practiced, efficient movements. Someone had put a neck brace on him. Someone else was rattling off vitals. They worked fast, professional, urgent. "Wait," Bailey called out, suddenly remembering. "The ring. There's a ring in the center console, his grandmother's ring. He was begging me not to let it burn. Please, you have to get it." The young paramedic nodded and jogged back to the wreck. A firefighter was already spraying foam on the engine, but the paramedic reached carefully through the broken passenger window. A moment later, he emerged holding a small velvet box. He brought it to Bailey, pressing it into her hands. "You keep it safe. When he wakes up, you can give it to him yourself." "But I don't even know who he is." "We're taking him to Northwestern Memorial. You can check on him there." The paramedic was already moving back to the ambulance. "What's your name, for the report?" "Bailey," she called after him. "Bailey Monroe." But he was already climbing into the ambulance, the doors closing behind him. She wasn't sure he'd even heard her over the sirens. The ambulance screamed to life and raced toward the city, lights painting the darkness in red and blue. And just like that, Bailey stood alone on Route 41, covered in blood and gasoline, wearing nothing but her torn shirt and jeans in the chilly September night. No car, no ride home. A velvet ring box clutched in her bloody hand like a sacred trust. Just her and the distant sounds of firefighters finishing up with the Mercedes. She sat on the grass beside Route 41 for 20 minutes after the ambulance left. She hadn't planned to. Her body just wouldn't move. She sat in the dark with her knees pulled to her chest, hands still shaking, her delivery shirt soaked through with blood and gasoline that she could smell every time she breathed. In the distance, the firefighters had finished with the Mercedes. She could hear them packing up, and the road was quiet now, just headlights sweeping past, other people's lives continuing without interruption. She thought about the man, about how still he'd been when they lifted him onto the stretcher, about the way his hand had found hers in the dark and held on, even unconscious, even dying. All I have left of her. She opened the velvet box with trembling fingers. Inside was the most beautiful ring she'd ever seen. Vintage, probably from the 1960s. A delicate gold band with a small but perfect sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. The kind of ring that had been worn with love for decades. The kind of ring that held stories. "I'll keep it safe," Bailey whispered to the empty night. "I promise." She closed the box carefully and tucked it into her pocket, zipping it securely. Then she ordered a lift, wincing at the price estimate, $52 for a ride from Lake Forest to the south side at surge pricing. That was almost a quarter of her secret savings gone in one night. Worth it, she told herself as she watched the little car icon crawl toward her location on the app. He's alive. That's worth $52. She sat very still until the car came. The driver took one look at her and didn't say a word. Either he was used to unusual late-night pickups, or he was kind enough to understand that some people just needed to be driven home in silence. Bailey was grateful either way. She watched the city pass through the window, block by block, light by light, and let herself have one more fantasy. Maybe he'll wake up and remember me. Maybe he'll want to find me and say thank you. Maybe we'll become friends. Maybe... She shut that thought down hard. Girl, please. Men like that don't end up with women like you. He's probably got a beautiful girlfriend waiting at home, worried sick. Or a wife. Or 12 girlfriends. He's got a whole life that has nothing to do with you. You saved him. That's enough. That has to be enough. She made herself believe it. The house was dark except for the porch light. A tiny, run-down two-bedroom house in a rough neighborhood on the south side, with peeling paint and a roof that leaked when it rained. Bailey tried to slip inside quietly, hoping to make it upstairs without waking anyone. The living room light snapped on before she got 3 steps inside. Aunt Mercy stood in the doorway in a ratty old bathrobe, arms crossed, face twisted in fury. Mercy, Bailey thought with the bitter humor that had become her survival mechanism. The most ironically named woman in Chicago. Should have been called Merciless. "Where the hell have you been?" Mercy's voice was sharp as broken glass. Bailey was so exhausted she could barely form words. "There was an accident on Route 41. Someone was trapped. I stopped to help." "You what?" Mercy's voice rose to a shout. "You abandoned Ariel on the side of the road to play hero for some stranger?" "He was dying, Aunt Mercy. The car was going to explode. I don't care if the president himself was in that car." Mercy stepped closer, and Bailey could smell the cheap wine on her breath. "You were supposed to bring Ariel home safely. Instead, you sent her home alone in the middle of the night while you risked my car. My only car. Not the only thing James left me, to save some random person you don't even know. I didn't risk the car. I parked it safely and gave it to Ariel. The point is, you disobeyed me." Mercy was screaming now. "You put a stranger before your own family. Do you have any idea how selfish that is? How ungrateful." Selfish, Bailey thought. "I work 72 hours a week so your daughter can get a master's degree, and I'm selfish for stopping to save someone's life." She imagined saying that out loud. Imagined the look on Mercy's face. Imagined walking out the door and never coming back. One day, she promised herself. One day I'm going to look this woman in the eye and tell her exactly what I think of her. And then I'm going to walk out that door and never look back. One day. Just not today. "I'm sorry," Bailey said quietly, "because it was easier than fighting." "Sorry doesn't cut it." Mercy's eyes were hard as stones. "You're grounded. 2 weeks. You go to your jobs and you come straight home. No stops for any reason. And you're doing extra chores. Kitchen, bathrooms, laundry, everything. Maybe that'll teach you where your priorities should be." Bailey's entire body ached. She'd just saved a man's life, and her reward was more punishment, more slavery. Merciless, she thought. Absolutely merciless. Her parents really should have named her something else. Cruelty, maybe. Or spite. Aunt Spite, I'm home, has a nice ring to it. The dark humor helped. It always did. Yes, ma'am, Bailey whispered, and climbed the narrow stairs to her tiny room. Looking back now, Bailey should have known that no good deed goes unpunished in the Hartley household. Should have known that saving a stranger's life would somehow become another reason for Aunt Mercy to punish her. But maybe to understand why Bailey put up with it, why she didn't just walk out that door and never look back, you need to understand how she ended up here in the first place. Bailey was 7 years old when her parents died in a car accident on I-90 during a winter storm. One moment she had a mama who braided her hair and called her "my little moon" because of the birthmark on her cheek, and a daddy who taught her to read and told her she could be anything she wanted. The next moment she had nothing but a garbage bag full of clothes and a social worker who smelled like cheap coffee. She bounced around foster care for 4 months before Mercy Hartley showed up. Mercy wasn't really Bailey's aunt. She was some distant cousin of Bailey's father, the kind of relative you saw once at a funeral and then never thought about again. But Mercy came to the group home with fake tears in her eyes and told the social worker she'd take Bailey in because family takes care of family. What the social worker didn't know was that Mercy's husband James had just been diagnosed with the cancer that would kill him 3 years later. Medical bills were piling up. James's construction business was failing. They were broke and getting more desperate by the day. But foster care paid monthly checks, and Mercy Hartley wasn't too proud to cash them. For the first few years, it wasn't terrible. Bailey went to school, had her own small room. I got fed regularly. Uncle James was kind when he had the energy, ruffling her hair and calling her "little bit." He'd slip her $5 here and there, tell her to save it for something special. Those small kindnesses kept her going. And there was Ariel. Ariel was 2 years younger than Bailey, and in those early days, she'd followed Bailey around like a shadow. "Teach me how to braid like that. Can you help me with my homework? Bailey, will you play with me?" Bailey had always wanted a little sister, and for a while, that's what Ariel was. They'd stay up late whispering under blankets. Bailey would sneak Ariel extra cookies from the kitchen. Ariel would draw Bailey pictures. Terrible, wonderful pictures of them as princesses or superheroes or astronauts. One picture still lived in Bailey's dresser drawer, yellowed and creased from years of handling. 2 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow with wobbly letters that spelled out BAILY and a real best sisters forever. That was before everything changed. Uncle James died when Bailey was 10, leaving Mercy with a mountain of debt, a beat-up Honda Civic, and a daughter to raise alone. That's when Mercy's true nature showed itself. Or maybe it had always been there, just hidden beneath the performance of being a good foster mother while the checks were coming. By the time Bailey was 11, she was doing all the cooking and cleaning. By 12, she was Mercy's personal servant, washing clothes, scrubbing floors, doing whatever Mercy demanded. And Ariel? Ariel watched it happen. At first, she'd tried to help. She'd sneak into the kitchen while Bailey was scrubbing dishes and dry them alongside her. She'd whisper, "I'm sorry," when Mercy wasn't looking. Once, when Mercy had screamed at Bailey for an hour over a broken plate, Ariel had slipped a chocolate bar under Bailey's pillow with a note. "I know it wasn't your fault." But as the years passed, Ariel learned what was expected of her. Learned that helping Bailey meant angering Mercy. Learned that staying quiet was safer than speaking up. She stopped helping. Stopped apologizing. Started treating Bailey like Mercy did, like a servant, like someone who existed to make her life easier. But sometimes, not often, but sometimes, the old Ariel would resurface. A cupcake on the anniversary of Bailey's parents' death. A text that said thank you after Bailey covered her shift so she could study for exams. A moment of genuine laughter over something stupid, the two of them giggling like they were kids again. Those moments were what made it complicated. What made it impossible for Bailey to hate Ariel completely. Because somewhere underneath the selfishness and the entitlement and the years of learned cruelty, there was still the little girl who'd drawn stick figure sisters under a crayon rainbow. When Bailey turned 13 and finished 8th grade, Mercy made a decision that would shape the rest of Bailey's life. "You're not going to high school," Mercy announced one morning like she was discussing the weather. "Ariel needs tutoring if she's going to get into a good university. That costs money. You're going to work and help pay for your cousin's education. It's the least you can do after everything I've done for you." Bailey had cried, had begged, had pleaded to be allowed to continue her education. Mercy's response was a slap and screaming at her to stop being ungrateful. Merciless, Bailey had thought that night, crying into her pillow. They should have named her Merciless. At 13, Bailey started working. First just one job cleaning houses, then 2 jobs when Ariel got into university, then 3 jobs when Ariel decided she wanted a master's degree. She got her GED at 19, studying in stolen moments between shifts, teaching herself from library books and free online courses. It wasn't the same as a real high school education. She'd never gotten to walk the halls, make friends, go to prom, I'd experience any of it. But it was something. Proof that Mercy couldn't take everything from her. "Someday," Bailey told herself in her darkest moments, "someday I'm going to go back. I'm going to walk into a real high school, not some adult education center, a real high school, and I'm going to experience everything they stole from me. The classes, the friends, the whole thing. Someday." Now at 24, Bailey worked as a delivery driver from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. She also cleaned office buildings from 7 a.m. to noon and stocked shelves at a grocery store from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. 72 hours a week, every single week, with maybe 5 hours of sleep a night if she was lucky. Every penny she made went to Mercy. For room and board. For Ariel's tuition. For Ariel's books and laptop and clothes and everything else Ariel needed for her education. Bailey had managed to save exactly $247 in a secret bank account over the past 2 years. $247 toward her dream of one day having enough money to escape. To rent her own place. To maybe, finally, get a real education. $247, and she'd just spent 52 of them on a lift home from saving a stranger's life. $195 left. At this rate, she'd have enough for a security deposit by the time she was 40. "But he's alive," she reminded herself as she peeled off her blood-stained clothes and stood under the cold shower. "That man is alive because of you. That's worth more than money." It had to be. She pulled on her sleep shirt, then carefully took the velvet ring box from her jacket pocket. She opened it once more, studying the beautiful sapphire ring in the dim light of her bedside lamp. The ring caught the light and sparkled. Gold and blue and diamond white. It was the most valuable thing Bailey had ever held in her hands, not just because of what it was worth in money, but because of what it represented. A grandmother's love, a family heirloom, a promise kept. "I kept my promise," she whispered. "I got your grandmother's ring. Now you keep yours and wake up." She tucked the box into her dresser drawer, buried under old t-shirts where Mercy would never find it if she went snooping. Then Bailey collapsed onto her twin bed and stared at the water-stained ceiling. "I need to return that ring," she thought. "He said he was going to Northwestern Memorial. I could go there, ask about him, give it back." But even as she thought it, exhaustion pulled her under. She'd figure it out tomorrow, or the next day. She'd find a way. She fell asleep with dried blood still under her fingernails and the smell of gasoline in her hair, dreaming of dark brown eyes and a voice calling her an angel. 3 weeks passed. Bailey fell back into the numbing routine of her life. Delivery shifts from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., office cleaning from 7 a.m. to noon, grocery stocking from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., an hour of sleep, maybe less, before the cycle started again. But something was different now. Every night during her delivery shift, Bailey found herself taking the long route past Northwestern Memorial Hospital. She'd slow down as she passed the main entrance, and searching the lit windows as if she could somehow spot the man she'd saved. She still had his grandmother's ring. It sat in her pocket now. She'd started carrying it everywhere after the second week, unable to shake the feeling that leaving it in her dresser was somehow wrong. She'd tried going to the hospital once, 3 days after the accident, but the reception desk wouldn't give her any information about patients. "Are you family?" the receptionist had asked. "No, I found something that belongs to him. I was there when the accident happened." "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't release patient information to non-family members. Bailey had left her phone number and heard nothing. She'd thought about forcing her way in, but didn't want to cause a scene. What if there was paperwork or police involvement, sad or worse? What if Mercy found out? Just figure out who he is, she told herself. Then you can mail it to him anonymously. Easy. But she didn't know how to figure out who he was. She didn't even know his name. The ring box stayed in her pocket. She kept meaning to figure something out, but she was so tired. Always so tired. On Thursday of the third week, Bailey was stocking cereal boxes at the grocery store when Keisha appeared beside her with that look on her face. The one that meant she had gossip and she was dying to share it. Keisha Johnson was 22, always had gum, always had something to say, and had worked the evening shift at the store for 3 years. She was one of the few people who actually talked to Bailey like a real person instead of just another shelf stalker. "Girl, Aunt, did you see the news about that billionaire?" Keisha said, not even pretending to stock shelves. "Which billionaire?" Bailey asked absently, arranging Cheerios boxes in perfect rows. "Nicholas Phil. You know, the fine one who owns half of Chicago? He was in some car accident a few weeks ago. Almost died." Keisha pulled out her phone. "They're saying some mystery woman saved his life and then disappeared. He's trying to find her." Something cold slithered down Bailey's spine. "What?" "Yeah, look." Keisha turned her phone around, showing a news article with a photo of a man. Tall, dark-skinned, gorgeous even in a hospital bed with bandages. The man from the car. Bailey's hands went numb. The cereal box she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a hollow thud. "His name is Nicholas Phil," Keisha continued, unoblivious to Bailey's reaction, reading from her phone. "CEO of Phil Enterprises, worth like $5 billion. The accident was September 28th on Route 41. He says he doesn't remember much, but he wants to thank the woman who saved him." September 28th. Route 41. That was her. He was talking about her. And suddenly she knew exactly who he was. The velvet ring box in her pocket belonged to a billionaire. Of course, Bailey thought, the dark humor rising automatically. Of course I saved a billionaire, and of course I've been carrying his priceless family heirloom around in my delivery jacket for 3 weeks like it's a stick of gum. This is exactly my life. "You okay?" Keisha asked, finally noticing Bailey's pale face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine." Bailey's voice sounded strange even to her own ears. Just tired." "You're always tired." Keisha pocketed her phone and bent to pick up the dropped cereal box. "Anyway, they're offering some kind of reward for information. If I'd saved a billionaire's life, I'd be running to collect that money so fast." "I gotta go," Bailey interrupted, her heart pounding. "Break time." She didn't wait for Keisha's response. She fled to the break room and pulled out her own phone with shaking hands, Googling Nicholas Phil car accident. Article after article popped up. Photos of him. Healthy, powerful, commanding, wearing expensive suits and standing in front of glass towers. Nothing like the broken man she'd pulled from the wreckage. But those eyes. Even in pictures, those dark eyes were the same ones that had looked up at her in the darkness and called her an angel. The most recent article was from 2 days ago. Phil Enterprises CEO searching for mysterious rescuer. Bailey read it 3 times, her hands shaking harder with each pass. Nicholas Phil, 32, CEO of Phil Enterprises and one of Chicago's most successful young entrepreneurs, nearly lost his life on September 28th when his vehicle collided with a tree on Route 41. Phil suffered a traumatic head injury, broken ribs, and multiple lacerations, but survived thanks to the quick actions of an unknown woman who pulled him from the vehicle moments before it caught fire. "I owe my life to someone whose name I don't even know," Phil said in a statement released Tuesday. "She risked everything to save a stranger. I want to find her, thank her properly, and offer a substantial reward for her extraordinary courage." Phil Enterprises has set up a hotline for anyone with information about the woman's identity. The company is offering a reward, though the specific amount has not been disclosed. A substantial reward. From a billionaire. Bailey should come forward. Should call the number listed in the article. Should claim whatever reward he was offering. God knew she could use the money. $195 in her secret account wasn't going to change her life. But a substantial reward from a man worth $5 billion? That could be everything. She could escape mercy. Get her own place. Go back to school for real this time. Not some GED program, but actual school. Experience everything that had been stolen from her. And I could finally return his grandmother's ring, she thought. I've been carrying it around for 3 weeks like an idiot when I could have just... But something stopped her. She imagined calling that number. Imagined explaining who she was to some receptionist. Imagined being invited to some fancy office building where everyone would look at her torn jeans and calloused hands and know she didn't belong. Imagined cameras and questions and attention. Bailey didn't want attention. She'd spent 17 years being invisible in the Hartley house, and in a twisted way, invisibility had become comfortable. Safe. Besides, she told herself, I didn't save him for money. I saved him because it was the right thing to do. Coming forward now asking for a reward, that feels wrong somehow. Like I'm trying to profit from his near-death experience. She should just return the ring and go. Find a way to get it to him without making a big deal about it. Without cameras or rewards or attention. She'd figure out how. Soon. Bailey tucked her phone away and went back to stocking shelves, ignoring the way her hands still trembled. She didn't notice Keisha watching her from the end of the aisle with thoughtful, narrowed eyes. That night, Bailey was making a delivery in the Gold Coast, the ritzy neighborhood where money lived and regular people just visited, when she passed Phil Enterprises headquarters. The building was impossible to miss. 70 stories of gleaming glass and steel that dominated the skyline, with Phil Enterprises spelled out in letters 3 stories tall near the top. Even at night, the building glowed with light, alive with people working late. His building. Nicholas Phil's empire. Bailey pulled over and stared up at it for a long moment, wondering which window was his office. Wondering if he was up there right now, working late, maybe thinking about the woman who'd saved him. I have your grandmother's ring, she thought. I've been carrying it around for 3 weeks because I'm too scared to walk into your building and give it back. She imagined doing it. Walking through those gleaming doors in her delivery uniform, asking to see the CEO handing over the velvet box. Here, you asked me to save this. I did. And then security would probably tackle me to the ground, Bailey thought wryly. Homeless-looking woman claims to have Billionaire's jewelry. I'm more at 11. Her phone buzzed with another delivery request, pulling her back to reality. I'll figure it out, she told herself as she pulled away from the curb. Soon. I'll figure it out soon. On the morning of October 19th, a Wednesday, exactly 3 weeks after the accident, Bailey was finishing her last delivery when her phone rang. Aunt Mercy, calling at 10 in the morning, which was weird because Mercy knew Bailey should be sleeping right now before her grocery shift started. Bailey almost didn't answer, but years of conditioning made her hand move automatically to accept the call. Hello? Bailey answered, trying not to sound as exhausted as she felt. Bailey. Mercy's voice sounded strange, excited almost, high and tight in a way that set off warning bells in Bailey's head. I need you to tell me something. A few weeks ago, you said you helped someone in a car accident, right? Bailey frowned. Yeah? Why? Just tell me exactly where it happened. And when. Route 41, near mile marker 23. Late night, almost midnight. September 28th. Why are you asking? A thought flickered through Bailey's exhausted mind. Keisha had just told her yesterday about Nicholas Phil searching for his rescuer. And now Mercy was suddenly interested in the details of that same accident? No, Bailey thought. Mercy doesn't watch the news. She barely uses the internet. There's no way she knows about the reward. But the coincidence nagged at her. Mercy never asked about Bailey's life. Never showed the slightest interest in anything Bailey did unless it affected her directly. Unless there's money involved, a cynical voice whispered. Mercy can smell money from a mile away. And what exactly did you do? Walk me through it, every detail. I pulled a man out of a car that was about to catch fire, Bailey said slowly. Broke the window, dragged him out, called 911. The paramedics came and took him to the hospital. Why? What's this about? What did he look like? Aunt Mercy, why? Just answer the question, Bailey. Mercy's voice had that edge that meant arguing would only make things worse. Bailey sighed. Tall. Really tall, like 6'5", dark-skinned. He was wearing an expensive suit, navy blue, I think. That's all I remember. It was dark and smoky, and I was trying not to die. Why does this matter? Did he say anything to you? Bailey hesitated. The ring. The desperate plea. The way his hand had found hers in the darkness. The promise she'd made. That memory felt private somehow. Sacred. And the ring was still in her pocket right now. She still hadn't figured out how to return it. If Mercy found out about the ring, she'd demand Bailey hand it over. Probably try to sell it. Or use it as leverage somehow. Mercy by name, merciless by nature, Bailey thought grimly. He was mostly unconscious, Bailey said carefully, barely aware of what was happening. But did he speak at all? Think, Bailey, this is important. Maybe a word or two. I don't really remember. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. Aunt Mercy, I'm working. I've got to get home and sleep before my next shift. Can this wait? There was a pause. Then Mercy's voice came back, saccharine sweet in a way that made Bailey's skin crawl. Of course, honey. You get home safe. Get some rest. You work so hard. Honey. Mercy had just called her honey. Mercy never called her honey. Never called her anything affectionate at all. She knows, Bailey thought with sudden certainty. She found out about the reward somehow, and now she's planning something. But what could she plan? Bailey was the one who'd saved him. Bailey was the one with the ring. Okay, Bailey said slowly. I'll see you later. Drive safe, sweetheart. Mercy hung up. Bailey stared at her phone, her heart pounding. She's going to claim she saved him, Bailey realized. Or, worse, she's going to make Ariel claim it. But that was crazy. That was fraud. That was exactly the kind of thing Mercy would do. Bailey should go home right now, should confront them, But she was so tired. She'd been awake for 23 hours straight. Her brain felt like cotton. Her eyes burned. Maybe I'm being paranoid, she told herself. Maybe Mercy just heard about the accident on the news and got curious. Maybe it's nothing. She drove home, parked the Honda in front of the house, and trudged inside. Mercy was nowhere to be seen, probably in her room. Ariel's door was closed. Bailey climbed the stairs to her tiny room, stripped off her delivery uniform, and collapsed onto her bed. She was asleep in 30 seconds, the velvet ring box still in her pocket where she'd left it. She had no idea that downstairs, Aunt Mercy and Ariel were huddled over a laptop, watching a news broadcast that had aired an hour earlier. A broadcast that was about to change everything. That was her, Mercy said slowly, staring at the laptop screen in the living room. That was Bailey. She saved Nicholas Phil's life. Ariel leaned closer to the screen, eyes wide. The Nicholas Phil? The billionaire? The same. Mercy's hands trembled slightly as she rewound the video of the press conference. Route 41, mile marker 23, September 28th, around midnight. Everything matches. They watched the replay. Javon Mitchell, Nicholas Phil's best friend and COO, standing at a podium in the Phil Enterprises lobby, cameras flashing, reporters crowding forward. Mr. Phil wants to thank this woman personally and offer a generous reward for her extraordinary courage. If you have any information about her identity, please call the number on your screen. Mr. Phil is determined to find the woman who saved his life. How much do you think the reward is? Ariel asked, her voice barely a whisper. From a man worth $5 billion? Mercy turned to look at her daughter. Could be hundreds of thousands, could be millions. The words hung in the air. Ariel was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, We should tell Bailey. Help her come forward. Mercy stared at her daughter like she'd grown a second head. Tell Bailey? She's the one who saved him. She should get the reward. And what about us? Mercy's voice was sharp. What do we get? A pat on the back? She'd share it with us? You know she would. She gives us all her money anyway. She gives us her paycheck because she owes us, Mercy snapped, for 17 years of room and board. But this is life-changing money. And you think Bailey's going to just hand it over? Ariel hesitated. She might. She won't. The second she has that kind of money, she'll be gone. She'll move out, cut us off, and we'll never see a penny of it. Mom, think about it, Ariel. Mercy leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Bailey was there that night, but so were you. Ariel went very still. What are you saying? I'm saying that it was dark. The man was unconscious. You and Bailey are about the same height, same build. If someone were to come forward claiming to be the rescuer... Mom, no. Ariel shook her head, pulling back. That's fraud. I can't do that to Bailey. She's the one that risked her life for it. You wouldn't be doing anything to Bailey. She doesn't even know about the reward. But I'd be lying. To everyone. To this billionaire who almost died. Mercy's expression softened. The kind of calculated softness she used when she was trying to manipulate someone. Baby, think about what this money could do for us. For your future. You're buried in student loans. You're going to graduate with a master's degree and $100,000 in debt. Ariel was quiet. Her mother wasn't wrong about the debt. Bailey's exhausted, Mercy continued, pressing her advantage. She's working herself to death. What if you could use this money to help her too? Buy her a nice apartment? Pay for her to go back to school? It was manipulation, pure and simple. But Mercy had been manipulating Ariel her whole life, and she knew exactly which buttons to push. Ariel thought about the student loans, about the credit card debt she'd been hiding, and about the unpaid internship she'd have to take after graduation. She thought about Bailey, who'd given up everything for a family that treated her like a servant. Would it really be so bad? A small, ugly voice whispered. Bailey doesn't even want the reward. She hasn't come forward. Maybe she doesn't want the attention. I don't know, Mom, Ariel said, but her voice was wavering. You don't have to decide right now. Just call the number. See what they say. Ariel looked at the frozen image on the laptop screen. Nicholas Phil in his hospital bed, bandaged but alive, because Bailey had saved him. Bailey, who still kept that terrible crayon drawing from 15 years ago. Bailey, who worked 3 jobs so Ariel could get a master's degree. Think about the future, Ariel. Our future. Don't we deserve one break after everything we've been through? Ariel closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had shifted. Okay, she said quietly. I'll call. And she hated herself for it. Minutes later, they were speaking to Nicholas's assistant, Javon Mitchell. A smooth male voice came on the line. You said your daughter saved Mr. Phil's life? Yes, sir. Mercy's voice was steady now, confident. My daughter, Ariel. She was driving home from Northwestern that night. She's a graduate student there, and she saw the accident. She stopped to help. Can you tell me the date and location? September 28th, Route 41, around midnight. She pulled him from the car right before it caught fire. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name? Hartley, Mercy Hartley. My daughter is Ariel Hartley. Mrs. Hartley, I'd like to set up a meeting with you and Ariel as soon as possible. Would today work? Today works. What time? Would 4 o'clock be convenient? Out here at Phil Enterprises headquarters? 4 o'clock. Perfect. Bailey would be at the grocery store, completely oblivious. 4 o'clock is perfect. Excellent. I'll have security expecting you. Mercy hung up and turned to Ariel. We have an appointment. Today at 4 o'clock. Ariel looked like she might be sick. Mom, I don't know if I can do this. You can and you will. Do you like poverty? Mercy's voice left no room for argument. We need to get you ready. Hair, makeup, the right clothes. Ariel's eyes drifted to the framed photo on the side table. Her and Bailey at Navy Pier years ago. Bailey was maybe 12, gap-toothed and grinning, one arm around Ariel's shoulders. Ariel was 10, making bunny ears behind Bailey's head. Bailey and a real best sisters forever. Ariel, Mercy's voice was sharp. We don't have time for second thoughts. Ariel turned away from the photo. Let's go get ready, she echoed, and hated herself for it. They arrived at Phil Enterprises headquarters at 4:12 p.m. The lobby was all marble and crystal chandeliers and people who looked like they belonged in magazines. Ariel felt like a fraud the moment she walked through the doors. Because you are one, she thought grimly. They were escorted to the 68th floor. At the end of the hall was a massive double door with a brass nameplate. Nicholas Phil, CEO. And there he was. Nicholas Phil. Ariel's breath caught. He was overwhelming. 6'5" of pure, controlled power. Dark skin that seemed to glow with health. A face that belonged on billboards. The small bandage above his left eyebrow was the only visible evidence of the accident. This is the man Bailey saved, Ariel thought. This is the man I'm about to lie to. Miss Hartley. He crossed the room and extended his hand. His voice was deep and smooth. I can't tell you how grateful I am to meet you. Mr. Phil. Ariel's voice came out breathier than she intended. I'm just glad you're okay. Thanks to you. He released her hand and gestured to the chairs in front of his desk. Please sit. Tell me about that night. Ariel launched into the rehearsed story. The library, the drive home, the accident, the smoke. Nicholas listened without interrupting, his dark eyes fixed on her face. But something was off. He was nodding in all the right places, asking the expected questions. But there was a distance in his expression, a watchfulness that made Ariel's skin prickle. That night, Nicholas said slowly, when you pulled me from the car, do you remember if I said anything to you? Ariel's heart hammered. This wasn't in the rehearsal. You were unconscious, Ariel said carefully. You didn't say anything I remember. Nothing at all? Maybe some groaning? But no actual words. Nicholas was quiet for a long moment. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I see, he said finally. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, maybe, or suspicion. A few more questions, Nicholas said. Where was I bleeding from? Your head, the left side. What was I wearing? A suit, dark-colored. And you broke the window with a rock, the size of a softball. Nicholas nodded slowly. His expression was unreadable. Miss Hartley, I want to thank you properly, he said. I'm holding a press conference tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I'd like to announce you as my rescuer and present you with a reward. Tomorrow morning. Ariel's stomach churned. That's very generous, she managed. They shook hands again. And then it was over. Back in his office, the door closed. Nicholas stood at the window staring out at the city. Javon leaned against the doorframe. So? That's not her. You're sure? Nicholas was quiet for a moment. The woman who saved me. I remember asking her for something. My grandmother Eleanor's ring. I begged her not to let it burn. And this Ariel didn't mention the ring? She said I didn't speak at all, that I was completely unconscious. Nicholas turned from the window. But I know I spoke. The doctors confirmed I was semi-conscious during portions of the rescue. So she's lying. Or my memory is playing tricks on me. Nicholas ran a hand over his face. The head trauma. The doctors warned me about false memories. But you don't believe that. No, I don't. So what do you want to do? Keep the press conference. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Nicholas's voice hardened. And have security dig into everything. Traffic cameras, 911 recordings, paramedic reports. If Ariel Hartley is lying, I want proof. While Ariel drove home in giddy silence with Mercy, Bailey was finishing her delivery shift. It was just past midnight when she pulled into the Quick Bite lot. Her back ached. Her eyes burned. But something was nagging at her. Mercy's phone call that morning. The weird questions. Oh, what was that about? Bailey pulled out her phone and, for the first time in weeks, actually looked at the news. The first headline made her blood run cold. Mystery hero found. Woman who saved Nicholas Phil identified. She clicked on it. Ariel Hartley, 24, a graduate student at Northwestern University, has come forward as the woman who saved billionaire CEO Nicholas Phil from a burning car on September 28th. Phil Enterprises announced that Ms. Hartley will be honored at a press conference tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., where she will receive a substantial reward for her heroism. Bailey read it 3 times. Ariel claimed she saved him. Ariel, who drove away and left me alone on Route 41. That Ariel is claiming she's the hero. For a long moment, Bailey couldn't breathe. Then the rage hit. It crashed over her like a wave. 17 years of swallowed anger, of bitten tongues, of yes ma'am and I'm sorry when she had nothing to be sorry for. No. The word was so clear in her mind that she almost said it out loud. No. I'm not letting this happen. She had proof. She had the ring. The ring that Nicholas Phil had begged her to save. The ring that Ariel knew nothing about. The press conference was at 9 a.m. Bailey looked at the clock on her phone. It was 12:17 a.m. All right, let's pause right here. Bailey just found out everything. Her cousin Ariel, the same cousin who drove away and left her on a dark road, is about to stand in front of cameras and take credit for saving Nicholas Phil's life. The press conference is at 9 a.m. It's currently 12:17 in the morning. And Bailey has the one piece of evidence that can expose the whole lie. Eleanor's ring. The ring she promised a dying man she would protect. The question is, what is she going to do about it? Comment expose if Bailey needs to show up at that press conference. Comment let it go if she should stay out of it and move on with her life. I want to know what you would do in her position. Drop your answer below. And make sure you're following, because what happens next? It's the confrontation you've been waiting for. Let's keep going. Bailey didn't sleep that night. She sat on her twin bed in her tiny room, staring at the velvet ring box in her hands, mind racing through her options. Option 1. Do nothing. Let Ariel take the credit, take the money, take everything. I'd go back to her 3 jobs and her 5 hours of sleep and her $195 in savings. No, absolutely not. I didn't drag a 230-pound man out of a burning car just to watch my cousin steal credit for it. Option 2. Confront Mercy and Ariel right now. Demand they tell the truth. Right. Because that's worked so well for me over the past 17 years. Mercy would probably find a way to spin it so I'm the villain. Bailey's jealous of her successful cousin. Bailey's trying to steal Ariel's spotlight. Option 3. Show up at the press conference. Tell the truth in front of everyone. And say what? Hi, I'm actually the one who saved him. Here's a ring to prove it. They'd think I was crazy. A security would throw me out before I got 2 sentences in. Option 4. Find Nicholas Phil before the press conference. Give him the ring. Let him decide what to do. Bailey turned the velvet box over in her hands, feeling the worn velvet under her calloused fingers. That was it. That was the only way. She had to find him before 9 a.m., had to get close enough to show him the ring, had to make him believe her. Easy, she thought sarcastically. Just intercept a billionaire CEO on one of the most important mornings of his life. A man with bodyguards and assistants, and probably a whole army of people whose job it is to keep random women away from him. What could go wrong? She pulled out her phone and started researching. Nicholas Phil, 32 years old. CEO of Phil Enterprises since age 26. Net worth approximately $5 billion. Residence, a penthouse in the Gold Coast. Of course he lives in the Gold Coast. Of course he does. She scrolled through article after article, looking for anything useful. His business strategy, his philanthropy, his dating history. She tried not to linger on that one. His family. Then she found it. A profile piece from Chicago Magazine, 3 years old. Despite his fortune and status, Phil maintains certain rituals that keep him grounded. Every morning, he visits the Daily Grind, a small coffee shop 3 blocks from Phil Enterprises headquarters. It's the same shop his grandmother Eleanor used to take him to as a child, back when she was building the family business from nothing. She'd order a black coffee and a blueberry muffin. And she'd quiz me on multiplication tables, Phil recalled with a fond smile. She said the best business meetings happened over good coffee. I still go there every morning. It makes me feel close to her. Phil's security team reportedly dislikes this ritual. The shop is small, crowded, and difficult to secure. But Phil insists on going alone. "Some things are sacred," he said. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died. That coffee shop is where I learned to be the man I am. I'm not giving that up for anyone." Bailey read the passage 3 times. He went alone, to honor his grandmother, the same grandmother whose ring was currently sitting in Bailey's pocket. This is either fate, Bailey thought, or the universe setting me up for the most spectacular failure of my life. She checked the time. 2:47 a.m. She had about 4 hours to figure out exactly what she was going to say to one of the most powerful men in Chicago. No pressure. At 6:45 a.m., Bailey was standing outside the Daily Grind in the only nice outfit she owned. A pair of black pants that were slightly too big, a white blouse that was slightly too wrinkled, and shoes that were slightly too worn. "I look like I'm going to a job interview at a place that's definitely not going to hire me," she thought. Perfect first impression for meeting a billionaire. The coffee shop was small and cozy, with exposed brick walls and the smell of freshly ground beans. Vintage photographs lined the walls. Chicago in the 1960s, the neighborhood before gentrification, what looked like a much younger version of the building itself. And there, in a faded frame near the register, was a photograph that made Bailey stop in her tracks. A young black woman in a sharp business suit, maybe 30 years old, sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee and a stack of papers. She had the same strong jaw, the same determined eyes, the same presence that Bailey had seen in pictures of Nicholas. Eleanor Phil read the small plaque beneath the photo. Customer since 1972. This is where it started, Bailey realized. This is where she built an empire, one coffee at a time. She bought the cheapest thing on the menu, a small black coffee, $3.75, which felt like highway robbery, and found a seat by the window where she could watch the door. And waited. 6:52 a.m. Nothing. 7:03 a.m. A businessman in a sharp suit walked in. Not him. 7:11 a.m. 2 women in yoga pants. Definitely not him. 7:18 a.m. And Bailey was starting to think this was a terrible idea. Maybe he'd changed his routine. Maybe he wasn't coming. Maybe... The door opened. And there he was. Nicholas Phil. In person, fully conscious, not covered in blood. He was even more devastating than she remembered. Tall enough that he had to duck slightly coming through the door. Shoulders that filled out his charcoal overcoat like it had been sewn onto his body. A face that belonged on magazine covers. He moved with the easy confidence of a man who owned the room, who owned multiple rooms, actually, probably entire buildings. The other customers instinctively gave him space, parting around him like water around a stone. The barista's face lit up when she saw him. "Mr. Phil? The usual?" "Thanks, Maria. How's your daughter? Did she get into Northwestern?" "She did. A full scholarship. I can't thank you enough for the recommendation letter." "She earned it. That essay she wrote was incredible." Nicholas smiled, and Bailey felt it somewhere in her chest. "Tell her congratulations from me." He knows the barista's name, Bailey thought. He knows about her daughter. He wrote a recommendation letter. It was such a small thing, but it made him seem human, real, not just a face on a magazine cover. "Okay," she thought, gripping her coffee cup. "This is it. You can do this. Just walk up to him, introduce yourself, show him the ring. Simple." She stood up. Her legs didn't move. "Move," she commanded herself. "Move, you coward. This is your one chance." Nicholas was at the counter now, pulling out his wallet. In 30 seconds, he'd have his coffee. In 45 seconds, he'd be out the door. Within a minute, she'd have lost her only opportunity. "Move." Bailey forced her legs to carry her across the coffee shop. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Her palms were sweating. Her mouth was dry. What am I going to say? "Hi, I'm the woman who pulled you out of a burning car. Here's your dead grandmother's ring. Please don't have security tackle me." "Excuse me," she said, and her voice came out about an octave higher than normal. "Mr. Phil?" He turned. And for one electric second, their eyes met. Something flickered across his face. Confusion, maybe. Or recognition. Like he was trying to place her, like he'd seen her somewhere before but couldn't quite remember where. "I'm sorry," he said, his brow furrowing slightly. "Do I know you?" "We've met," Bailey said. "Sort of. You weren't really conscious for most of it." Nicholas went very still. The easy smile faded from his face, replaced by something sharper, more focused. "Route 41, Bailey continued, her voice steadier now. "September 28th. Your car was wrapped around a tree. You were dying. I pulled you out." His eyes widened. She saw him take in her face, really look at it, and his gaze caught on her birthmark, the crescent moon on her left cheek, near her ear. The same birthmark her mother used to trace with her finger at bedtime. "My little moon," she'd whisper. "You're my little moon, and you're going to shine so bright." It was the only thing Bailey had left of her mother, the only physical proof that she'd once been loved completely, before everything fell apart. And now Nicholas was staring at it like he'd seen a ghost. "The mark," he breathed, "shaped like a crescent moon. I remember. I thought I dreamed it." "You asked me for something that night," Bailey said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the velvet box. "You begged me not to let it burn. You said it was all you had left of your grandmother." She opened the box. The sapphire ring caught the morning light streaming through the coffee shop windows, sparkling blue and gold, and perfect. The same ring Eleanor Phil had probably worn while sitting at her usual table in this very coffee shop, building an empire one deal at a time. Nicholas stared at it like she'd just pulled a ghost from her pocket. "Eleanor's ring," he whispered. His hand reached out, trembling slightly, hovering over the box but not quite touching. "You saved it. Yeah, you actually. I made you a promise." Bailey's voice cracked slightly. "I don't break my promises." For a long moment, Nicholas just looked at her. His expression cycled through about 15 emotions. Shock, wonder, gratitude, something that looked almost like awe. His eyes were bright, wet at the edges. Then he did something unexpected. He reached out and took her hand. Not to shake it, though it started that way, his fingers closing around hers in what might have been a formal greeting. But then he stopped, turned her hand over, looked at her palm, at the calluses, the roughness, the small scars from broken glass that hadn't fully healed. "Your hands," he said softly. Bailey didn't understand. "What about them?" "That night, I was in and out of consciousness, but I remember someone holding my hand, telling me to stay with her. And her hands were rough, calloused, working hands." His thumb traced across her palm, reverent. "When Ariel Hartley came to my office yesterday, something felt wrong. I couldn't place it. But when I shook her hands," his jaw tightened. Her hands were soft, manicured, perfect. He looked up at Bailey, his dark eyes intense. "No one who broke a car window with a rock and dragged a 230-pound man through gravel has hands like that. I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't prove it." He was still holding her hand, still tracing the calluses like they were precious. "These hands saved my life," Nicholas said quietly. "I remember them. Even when I couldn't remember your face, I remembered your hands." Bailey's throat was tight. "I've always hated my hands. They're so rough, so ugly. They're beautiful." His voice was firm. "They tell your whole story." He finally released her hand, but his eyes stayed locked on hers. "The press conference. Ariel Hartley, she's my cousin." Bailey's voice was flat. "She drove away and left me on the side of the road that night. And now she's claiming she saved your life." "I knew it." Nicholas's voice was low and furious. "I knew something was wrong. She said I never spoke to her. But I remembered the ring. I remembered asking—" He broke off, running a hand over his face. "I thought maybe I'd imagined it. The doctors warned me about false memories from the head trauma. But you were real. This whole time, you were real. I didn't come forward because I didn't want attention, Bailey said quietly. I didn't save you for a reward. I saved you because you were dying and I couldn't just drive past. That's it. Like, that's the whole story. Then why come forward now? Because she's going to stand in front of cameras and take credit for something she didn't do. And Bailey's voice hardened. I've spent 17 years letting people take things from me. My education, my money, my entire life, basically. I'm not letting them take this too. Nicholas studied her face for a long moment. The coffee shop bustled around them, the hiss of the espresso machine, the murmur of other customers. But it felt like they were in their own bubble, like the rest of the world had faded away. Come with me, Nicholas said. What? To the press conference. Come with me right now. Bailey hesitated. I'm not exactly dressed for... You're perfect. Nicholas's voice was firm. You're the woman who saved my life. You don't need to be dressed in anything except the truth. That's either the corniest thing I've ever heard, Bailey thought, or the most romantic. Possibly both. Okay, she said. Let's go. Nicholas picked up his coffee, black, like his grandmother used to drink, and guided her toward the door with a gentle hand on her lower back. Wait, Bailey said suddenly, turning back. Don't you have security? Bodyguards? The article said your team hates that you come here alone. Nicholas smiled slightly. They're outside, 3 cars, watching every entrance. He pushed open the door. But this place is sacred. I'm not going to let bodyguards turn it into a production. Sure enough, as they stepped onto the sidewalk, 3 black SUVs materialized from nearby parking spots. Men in dark suits emerged, speaking into earpieces. Mr. Phil, who is... This is Bailey Monroe, Nicholas said calmly. She's coming with us. She's the woman who actually saved my life. The head of security, a massive man with a shaved head and suspicious eyes, looked at Bailey like she might be hiding a weapon somewhere on her person. Sir, we should verify... I have all the verification I need. Nicholas held up the velvet box, still open, Eleanor's ring glinting in the morning light. She kept a promise. That's good enough for me. He opened the back door of the nearest SUV for Bailey. After you. Bailey slid into the leather seat, feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. Nicholas climbed in beside her and the door closed, sealing them in a cocoon of silence and luxury. This is surreal, Bailey said. Which part? All of it. This time yesterday I was delivering pizzas and trying not to fall asleep at the wheel. Now I'm in the back of a bulletproof SUV with a billionaire. She looked at him. This is a bulletproof SUV, right? Reinforced glass and armored panels, Nicholas confirmed. Standard precaution. Right, standard. Bailey laughed, slightly hysterical. Because that's a normal thing people need. Bulletproof cars. Nicholas smiled. You get used to it. I really don't think I will. The back entrance of Phil Enterprises was chaos contained. Security guards with earpieces, assistants with clipboards, people rushing around looking important and stressed. And in the middle of it all, a man who Bailey recognized from the news articles, Javon Mitchell, Nicholas's COO and best friend. He was pacing near the elevators, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid-fire sentences. Need the traffic footage queued up on the main screen and make sure legal is standing by and where the hell is... He spotted Nicholas and stopped mid-sentence. Nick, thank God, where have you... Javon stopped short when he saw Bailey. His eyes went to the velvet box still clutched in her hand. To her face. To the crescent moon birthmark. Is that... Eleanor's ring, Nicholas confirmed. Bailey Monroe, the real rescuer. Javon's expression shifted through surprise, understanding, and finally, a wide grin. I knew it. I knew that Ariel was lying. It felt all like an act. Nicholas nodded. I should have known from the hands. The hands? Javon asked. Her hands were too soft, too smooth. Nicholas nodded towards Bailey. I remembered my rescuer's hands as rough and calloused, just like hers. The Hartleys are already here, Javon said, checking his phone. They arrived 20 minutes ago. Ariel's getting touched up by makeup. Mercy's demanding to know where the cameras are. Of course she is, Bailey thought. Mercy's probably already rehearsed her proud mother's speech. Is the traffic footage ready? Nicholas asked. Pulled it last night. We've got everything. The 911 call, the paramedic reports. On the traffic camera showing a woman in a delivery uniform walking toward the accident site at 11:52 p.m. and walking away at 12:47 a.m., covered in what looks like blood and gasoline. A delivery uniform, Nicholas said softly, looking at Bailey. You were working. 12-hour shift. I was on my way home from picking up my cousin from a party when I saw your car. Bailey's voice was dry. Same cousin who's about to commit fraud in front of the entire Chicago press corps, incidentally. Nicholas's expression darkened. She won't get away with it. What are you going to do? Let her tell her story. Let her stand in front of all those cameras and lie. Nicholas's voice was cold. And then show the evidence. Show the ring. Show you. Bailey felt a flutter of nerves. In front of everyone? You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. Just stand there. Let them see your face. I will handle the rest. Okay, Bailey said. Let's do it. The press conference was being held in the Phil Enterprises lobby, a massive space with 40-foot ceilings and walls of glass overlooking Lake Michigan. Rows of chairs faced a raised platform with a podium. Reporters filled every seat. Camera crews jockeyed for position. The air hummed with anticipation. And there, standing near the front like she owned the place, was Ariel. She was wearing the same navy dress from yesterday, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. Mercy stood beside her, practically vibrating with barely contained excitement. They were talking to a producer from one of the local news stations, Mercy gesturing expansively, probably already negotiating interview rights. Bailey watched them from behind a pillar, out of sight, feeling something complicated twist in her chest. She looks confident, Bailey thought. She looks like she believes her own lie. But then Bailey saw Ariel's hands, the way they were clenched at her sides, the slight tremor in her fingers, the way her eyes kept darting toward the exits. Ariel was terrified. Good, a vicious part of Bailey thought. She should be. But another part, the part that remembered crayon drawings and whispered secrets under blankets, felt something that might have been pity. She didn't plan this, Bailey realized. Mercy did. Ariel just went along with it because she didn't know how to say no, because she's never known how to say no to Mercy. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it explained it. You okay? Javon's voice was soft beside her. Fine, Bailey said. Let's get this over with. Nicholas walked onto the stage at exactly 9 a.m. The room fell silent. Cameras clicked and flashed. Nicholas stood at the podium, commanding every eye in the room without saying a single word. He's good at this, Bailey thought. He was born for this. This is his world. Good morning, Nicholas said, his voice carrying easily through the space. Thank you all for being here. 3 weeks ago, I nearly died in a car accident on Route 41. I'm only standing here today because of the actions of one extraordinary woman who risked her own life to save mine. He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd. Yesterday, a woman came forward claiming to be my rescuer, Ariel Hartley. Bailey saw Ariel straighten up, a nervous smile on her face. Mercy was beaming, already mentally composing Instagram captions. I was grateful, Nicholas continued. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to thank the woman who saved me and give her the reward she deserved. Another pause. Longer this time. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. But something didn't add up. The energy in the room shifted. Reporters leaned forward. Cameras zoomed in. The rubber band snapped. Ariel's smile faltered. Miss Hartley told me that I was unconscious the entire time she was rescuing me. That I never spoke a single word. Nicholas's voice hardened. But I remember speaking. I remember begging my rescuer to save something precious from my car. A ring that belonged to my late grandmother, Eleanor. A ring that Miss Hartley never mentioned. A ring that, according to Miss Hartley, it doesn't exist. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Reporters began typing furiously on their phones. Mr. Phil? Ariel's voice cut through the noise, high and panicked. I don't know what you're talking about. You were unconscious. You didn't. I have the ring. Nicholas held up the velvet box. The room went silent. My grandmother's ring. The one I begged my rescuer to save. The one she promised me she would protect. Nicholas opened the box, and the sapphire caught the light. It's been in the possession of my real rescuer for the past 3 weeks. A woman who saved my life and asked for nothing in return. A woman who didn't come forward because she didn't want attention. A woman who only stepped up today because she couldn't stand to watch someone else take credit for her courage. He turned toward the pillar where Bailey was hiding. Bailey Monroe, Nicholas said. Please, come out. Every camera in the room swung toward her. For one terrifying second, Bailey couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything except stand there frozen while 100 reporters stared at her, while camera flashes exploded like tiny lightning strikes. This is it, she thought. This is the moment where I either step forward or run away. What's it going to be, Bailey? Same old invisible Bailey who lets everyone walk all over her? Or someone new? She thought about her mother. About my little moon. About the way her mother used to look at her birthmark with such love, such pride, like it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Shine bright, her mother had said. You're going to shine so bright. Bailey stepped out from behind the pillar. The cameras erupted in flashes. Reporters shouted questions, but Bailey barely heard any of it. Her eyes found Ariel's across the room. Ariel's face had gone white. Her perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the blood draining from her cheeks. Her hands, those soft, smooth hands that had never broken a car window or dragged a dying man through gravel, were shaking visibly. Bailey, Ariel whispered. Just that. Just her name. Bailey held her gaze for a long moment. 17 years of history passed between them. The crayon drawings and the whispered secrets and the cupcake on the anniversary of her parents' death. The drive home from the party and the taillights disappearing into the night. Bailey and Ariel, best sisters forever. Then Bailey looked away and walked toward the stage. The next hour was a blur. Nicholas showed the evidence. Traffic camera footage of Bailey walking toward the accident site in her delivery uniform. The timestamp, 11:52 p.m. The 911 call. Bailey's voice clear and urgent. Single car accident, Route 41 southbound, mile marker 23. One person trapped, cars smoking, gasoline everywhere. The paramedic reports, describing a woman matching Bailey's description, including the distinctive crescent moon birthmark on her left cheek. And the ring. The ring that Ariel knew nothing about. The ring that proved, beyond any doubt, that Bailey was telling the truth. Through it all, Bailey stood beside Nicholas on the stage, unfeeling like she was watching someone else's life from very far away. This is really happening, she thought. This is really my life now. She watched Mercy and Ariel on the other side of the room, watched Mercy's face cycle through shock, denial, and finally, cold fury. Watched Ariel standing very still, tears streaming down her face, not even trying to wipe them away. Part of Bailey wanted to feel triumphant, wanted to savor this moment of finally being seen. But mostly she just felt tired. Do you have any questions for Miss Monroe? Nicholas asked the reporters. 100 hands shot up. 100 voices clamored for attention. Nicholas leaned close to Bailey and whispered, You don't have to answer anything you don't want to. Just say, no comment. Bailey took a breath and stepped up to the microphone. I'll take a few questions, she said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Miss Monroe, why didn't you come forward sooner? I didn't save Mr. Phil for recognition or money. I saved him because he was dying and it was the right thing to do. Coming forward felt like asking for a reward for basic human decency. What made you change your mind? Bailey glanced at Ariel across the room. I changed my mind because I realized that staying silent was letting someone else profit from my actions. And I've spent too much of my life letting people take things from me. Can you describe the rescue? What was going through your mind? Honestly, I was terrified. The car was smoking, there was gasoline everywhere, and Mr. Phil weighs about 230. I didn't think I could get him out. I just knew I had to try. Miss Monroe, what's your relationship to Ariel Hartley? Bailey paused. This was the question she'd been dreading. She's my cousin, Bailey said finally. We grew up together. Did you know she was going to claim credit for your rescue? I found out last night. How do you feel about her fraud? Bailey looked at Ariel again, at the tears still streaming down her face, at the way her shoulders were shaking with silent sobs. She thought about the crayon drawing in her dresser drawer, about Bailey and a real best sisters forever, about a 5-year-old Ariel asking Bailey to teach her how to braid, about chocolate bars slipped under pillows with notes that said, I know it wasn't your fault. I think, Bailey said slowly, that people make bad decisions when they're desperate. I'm not excusing what she did, but I'm also not going to stand here and tear her apart in front of cameras. She knows what she did. She'll have to live with that. The room fell silent. That's all the questions I'm going to answer, Bailey said, stepping back from the microphone. She didn't look at Ariel again. Can we talk about what just happened? Bailey had every single right to destroy Ariel and Mercy. Every right to humiliate her. Every right to make her pay for 17 years of being treated like nothing. The cameras were rolling. The reporters were hungry. One word from Bailey and Ariel's and Mercy's reputation would have been ashes. And what did Bailey say? I'm not going to stand here and tear her apart in front of cameras. She knows what she did. She'll have to live with that. That's not weakness. That is strength most people will never understand. Comment, respect, if Bailey just earned yours. Comment better than me if you would have chosen scorched earth. I need to know where you stand on this. Because this moment right here, this is what separates people who survive from people who actually heal. Now let's see what happens behind closed doors with Aunt Mercy. That conversation is a different story entirely. After the press conference, everything happened very fast. Lawyers materialized out of nowhere, talking about charges and civil liability and potential legal consequences that made Bailey's head spin. Reporters tried to get follow-up interviews. Someone shoved a business card in her hand and said something about a book deal. Someone else mentioned a possible movie adaptation. Through it all, the Nicholas stayed by her side, solid, steady, like an anchor in a storm. Come with me, he said finally, guiding her away from the chaos. Let's get you somewhere quiet. He led her to a private elevator that required a key card. They rode up in silence, Bailey watching the numbers climb. 60, 61, 62, 63. The doors opened onto a floor that was clearly Nicholas's personal domain. Floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over Lake Michigan. Minimalist furniture in warm woods and soft leather. Art that probably cost more than everything Bailey had ever owned combined. Sit, Nicholas said gently, guiding her to a leather couch. I'll get you some water. Bailey sat. Her legs felt like jelly. Her hands were shaking. I just stood in front of 100 reporters, she thought. I just exposed my cousin as a fraud in front of all of Chicago. National news. Maybe international. What the hell do I do now? Nicholas returned with a glass of water and sat down beside her. Not too close, respectful of her space. How are you feeling? He asked. Like I just got hit by a truck, Bailey admitted. Multiple trucks. A whole convoy of trucks arranged in a very specific pattern to cause maximum damage. Nicholas laughed. It was a warm sound, unexpected and genuine, and Bailey felt some of the tension in her shoulders ease. That's understandable, he said. You just did something incredibly brave. Brave? Bailey shook her head. I just told the truth. The truth can be the bravest thing of all. Nicholas's voice was soft, especially when telling it costs you something. Bailey thought about Ariel, and about the look on her face when Bailey had stepped out from behind that pillar. It did cost me something, she realized. Whatever relationship we had left, it's gone now. I don't know what happens next, Bailey said honestly. My life has been pretty small, you know? 3 jobs, a tiny room, saving up $200 over 2 years. And now suddenly there's cameras and lawyers and… She gestured vaguely at the penthouse around them. This… Nicholas was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." When I woke up in the hospital after the accident, the first thing I remembered wasn't the crash. It wasn't the pain or the fear. It was your voice. Bailey stared at him. "You kept telling me to stay with you. You wouldn't let me give up." Nicholas's dark eyes were intense on hers. I've thought about that voice every day for the past 3 weeks. I've been trying to find you." "The article mentioned that," Bailey said. "That you've been searching." He nodded. I needed to find you. I needed to thank you properly. And when you walked into that coffee shop this morning," he trailed off, shaking his head. "What?" Bailey prompted. "You're real," Nicholas said simply. "You're actually real. For 3 weeks I'd built you up in my head, this mysterious angel who saved my life. And now you're here and you're… disappointing," Bailey suggested. "Shorter than you expected? Considerably less angelic?" "Better," Nicholas said. "You're better. Yeah, you're funny and brave, and you stood up there in front of all those cameras and refused to tear your cousin apart even after what she did." He leaned forward slightly. "You're extraordinary, Bailey Monroe." Bailey felt heat rise to her cheeks. "You don't know me." "I'd like to. What do you say? A date?" The question hung in the air between them. Bailey looked at this beautiful, charming, probably too perfect man, and felt something she hadn't let herself feel in a very long time. Hope, but also suspicion. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything. Do you actually like me, or do you like the idea of me?" Nicholas blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Bailey struggled to put it into words. "You've built me up in your head for 3 weeks. This mysterious angel who saved your life. That's a pretty romantic narrative. Damsel saves the man in distress. Man searches for her. They fall in love. It's like a movie." She met his eyes directly. "But I'm not a movie character. I'm a 24-year-old with a GED, 3 jobs, and $195 to my name. I've never been on a real date. I don't know which fork to use at fancy restaurants. I've been wearing the same 2 pairs of jeans for 3 years." Nicholas started to speak, but Bailey held up a hand. "I'm not saying this for pity. I'm saying it because I need you to understand who I actually am. Not the angel you imagined. Not the mystery woman from your near-death experience. Just Bailey. Regular, exhausted, barely surviving Bailey." She took a breath. "So I'm asking you, do you like me? Or do you like the story of me?" Nicholas was quiet for a long moment. Bailey's heart pounded in her chest. Say something, she thought. Say anything. "You're right," Nicholas said finally. "I don't know you, not really. I know you're brave. I know you keep your promises. I know you have a dark sense of humor and a backbone made of steel. But I don't know your favorite movie or what you eat for breakfast or what you dream about when you can't sleep." He leaned forward, his dark eyes serious. "But I want to. I want to know all of it. Not because you saved my life, though I'll never stop being grateful for that. I want to know you because in the 5 minutes we talked in that coffee shop, you were funnier and more real than anyone I've met in years." Bailey felt something loosen in her chest. "I've dated models," Nicholas continued. "I've dated executives and socialites and women who could probably buy small countries. None of them ever called me out the way you just did. None of them ever asked if I liked them or just the idea of them." He reached out and took her hand. His palm was warm, his grip gentle. "I can't promise that the reality of me will live up to whatever you've imagined either," Nicholas said. "I work too much. I forget to eat. I have a tendency to throw money at problems instead of actually dealing with them. My grandmother Louise says I'm emotionally constipated." Bailey laughed despite herself. "Emotionally constipated?" Direct quote. "She also says I'm allergic to vulnerability and in denial about my workaholic tendencies." Nicholas smiled. "She's very direct. My grandmother." "Wait, your grandmother Louise?" Bailey frowned. "I thought your grandmother was Eleanor, the one who raised you." The one whose ring... Eleanor was my maternal grandmother, Nicholas explained. She passed away 3 years ago. She's the one who raised me after my parents died. Louise is my paternal grandmother, my father's mother. She's 81 and she still comes into the office twice a week to tell me everything I'm doing wrong. That sounds intense. She's incredible. Terrifying, but incredible. Nicholas squeezed her hand. She wants to meet you, by the way. She saw the press conference. She said, and I'm quoting directly, "Any woman brave enough to pull my grandson from a burning car is brave enough to survive dinner with me." That sounds like a threat. It's an invitation. A terrifying and non-optional invitation. Nicholas's eyes softened. My point is, I'm not perfect either, but I'd like to find out if our imperfections are compatible. He squeezed her hand. One date, no expectations, no pressure, just two people getting to know each other. What do you say? Bailey looked at their joined hands, at the contrast between his smooth, manicured fingers and her calloused, rough ones. One date, she thought. What's the worst that could happen? Actually, knowing her luck, a lot of things could happen. Earthquakes, meteor strikes, her aunt showing up to ruin everything. But for once in her life, Bailey decided not to think about everything that could go wrong. One date, she said. But you're paying. I only have $195 to my name, remember? Nicholas's smile lit up his entire face. I think I can manage that. 3 hours later, Bailey was still at Phil Enterprises when Javon knocked on the door. Sorry to interrupt, he said, but the Hartleys are asking to speak with Bailey. They're downstairs. Security is holding them in a conference room. Bailey's stomach dropped. Both of them? Both of them. Ariel's been crying. Mercy's been threatening to sue everyone in the building, which is hilarious given that she's the one who committed fraud. Javon's expression was neutral. You don't have to see them. I can have security escort them out. Actually, I'd prefer to have security escort them out, with prejudice. Bailey looked at Nicholas. What do you think? I think it's your decision, Nicholas said carefully. But if you want closure, this might be your chance to get it. Closure. That was one word for it. 17 years of pent-up rage finally getting an outlet was another. I'll see them, Bailey said. Alone. Are you sure? Nicholas asked. I'm sure. Bailey stood up, squaring her shoulders. There are some things I need to say, and some things I need to hear. The conference room was on the 20th floor, a sleek space with a long table and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Mercy sat at one end, her face tight with fury. Ariel sat beside her, red-eyed and trembling. Bailey walked in and closed the door behind her. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Mercy exploded. How dare you? She hissed. How dare you embarrass us like that in front of the entire city? After everything we've done for you? Everything you've done for me? Bailey's voice was quiet, but something in it made Mercy stop mid-rant. Let's talk about what you've done for me, Aunt Mercy. She walked to the window, looking out at the city spread below. The same view Nicholas had from his office. The view from the top. You took me in when I was 7. I was grateful. I thought you were saving me. Bailey turned to face Mercy. But you weren't saving me. You were using me. The foster care checks, the free labor, the 3 jobs so your daughter could get a master's degree while I never even finished high school. You ungrateful little. I'm not done. Bailey's voice was steel. For 17 years, I've cooked and cleaned and worked myself half to death for your family. I've given you every penny I earned. I've slept 4 hours a night so Ariel could have tutoring and laptops and clothes I could never afford for myself. And the one time, I'd do something brave, something meaningful, something that's entirely mine. You try to steal it. Mercy's face was mottled red with rage. Though if you think you're getting a cent of that reward money, I don't want your permission anymore. The words hit the room like a thunderclap. I don't need your permission to exist. I don't need your approval to feel good about myself. And I definitely don't need your blessing to take the reward that I earned by almost dying in a burning car while your daughter drove away. Bailey turned to Ariel. And you? Ariel flinched. I want to hate you, Bailey said honestly. Part of me does hate you. You left me on the side of the road. You watched me nearly die from exhaustion for years and did nothing. And then you tried to steal credit for saving someone's life. Tears were streaming down Ariel's face again. Fresh tears, mixing with the mascara that had already run. But I also remember the kid who used to draw me crayon pictures. Who used to sneak me chocolate bars when your mom was being especially awful. Who brought me a cupcake last week because she remembered what day it was. Bailey's voice cracked slightly. You're not a monster, Ariel. You're just weak. You've spent your whole life letting your mother make decisions for you, and this is where it got you. I'm sorry, Ariel whispered. Bailey, I'm so sorry. I didn't want, she said. I know. Bailey cut her off. I know she's the one who planned it. I know you just went along. That doesn't make it okay. But it means I'm not going to destroy you. She looked at Mercy. You wanted to know about the reward money? Here's what's going to happen. Nicholas is giving me $5 million. I could use that money to press charges against both of you. Fraud, identity theft, probably half a dozen other things. Javon has lawyers ready to go. They're actually kind of excited about it. Mercy's face went pale. But I'm not going to do that. Both Hartleys stared at her in shock. Not because I forgive you, Bailey clarified. Not because I'm over it. Because I'm done letting you take up space in my head. I've spent 17 years being angry at you, and I'm tired. I want to move on. I want to build something instead of tearing something down. She walked to the door. This is the last time we'll speak. I'm moving out tonight. I'll send someone for my things. Don't contact me. Don't show up at my new place. Don't come to Phil Enterprises trying to get to me through Nicholas. She put her hand on the doorknob. You're not worth my revenge, Aunt Mercy. You never were. She opened the door. Bailey, wait. Ariel started. Bailey paused but didn't turn around. In about 5 years, she said quietly, when you've had time to grow up and get out from under your mother's thumb, look me up. Maybe we can have coffee. Maybe we can't. But not now. Not yet. She walked out and closed the door behind her. The next few weeks were chaos. Nicholas set Bailey up in an apartment, her own apartment, with her own furniture, with a window that got actual sunlight. It wasn't fancy. She'd insisted on that. Just a one-bedroom in a nice building with a doorman who remembered her name. My own space, Bailey thought the first night, lying on her new bed and staring at her new ceiling. I have my own space. No one can take it from me. This is real. The reward money, $5 million, went into an account that made Bailey dizzy to look at. $5 million. After a lifetime of scraping by on nothing. And that's when Bailey made her first mistake. It started small. A new wardrobe, because she couldn't keep wearing the same 2 pairs of jeans. A laptop, because she'd never owned one. A nice dinner at a restaurant that didn't have a drive-through window. I deserve this, she told herself. After everything I've been through, I deserve nice things. And she did deserve nice things. The problem was that Bailey had no concept of what things actually cost when you had money. She'd spent so long pinching pennies that the sudden freedom was intoxicating. She bought a designer handbag because the saleswoman said it looked perfect on her. She bought shoes that cost more than her old monthly grocery budget. She donated $50,000 to a homeless shelter and another $20,000 to a children's hospital and another $10,000 to an animal rescue and another $15,000 to a literacy program. Every time she spent money, she felt a rush of euphoria. Look at me, she thought. Look at what I can do. I'm helping people. I'm treating myself. This is what freedom feels like. She didn't notice how fast the numbers in her account were dropping. 6 weeks after the press conference, Bailey was sitting in her apartment doing her monthly finances, a habit she'd developed from years of tracking every penny, when she finally added everything up and froze. She'd spent over $2 million in 6 weeks. $2 million. Got on clothes and donations and dinners and gifts for people she barely knew, and a really nice couch that she'd bought on impulse because the salesperson said it was once in a lifetime. And a car. Oh God, she'd bought a car. When had she bought a car? She hadn't invested a single penny. She hadn't saved anything for taxes. She hadn't planned for the future at all. Oh God, Bailey thought, staring at the spreadsheet. Oh God, what did I do? The euphoria evaporated, replaced by cold, creeping horror. She'd been poor her entire life. She'd been given one chance, one miraculous, impossible chance, to set herself up for the future. And she'd spent half of it in 6 weeks like money was infinite. Stupid, she thought. Stupid, stupid, stupid. You finally get something good and you ruin it. Just like Aunt Mercy always said. You're worthless. You don't deserve nice things. Her phone rang. Nicholas's name flashed on the screen. Bailey stared at it for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. She answered. Hey. Nicholas's voice was warm. I was thinking dinner tonight. There's this new place that just opened up. I messed up, Bailey blurted. Nick, I really messed up. A pause. What happened? Are you okay? I spent $2 million. Her voice broke. In 6 weeks. I didn't save anything. I didn't invest anything. I saw things and I bought them and I gave money away because it felt good and I didn't think. She was crying now, ugly sobs that made it hard to breathe. I finally had something good, she choked out, and I ruined it, just like I ruin everything. Bailey. Nicholas's voice was calm and steady. I'm coming over. Don't move, just breathe. He hung up. Bailey sat on her really nice couch, the one that had cost $15,000. Oh God, she'd spent $15,000 on a couch and cried until she couldn't cry anymore. Nicholas arrived 20 minutes later with Chinese takeout and a gentle expression. Okay, he said, setting the food on the coffee table and sitting down beside her. Show me the numbers. It's bad, Bailey whispered. I've seen bad. Show me. She handed over her laptop, unable to look at the screen herself. Nicholas scrolled through her spreadsheet in silence. Bailey watched his face, waiting for the disappointment, the judgment, I can't believe you were this irresponsible. Instead, he nodded thoughtfully. You donated nearly $150,000 to charity, he observed. Yes. You bought gifts for your former co-workers at all 3 of your jobs? They were good to me. I wanted to thank them. And you spent about $200,000 on yourself. Clothes, furniture, the apartment setup, the car. Bailey winced. 200,000 sounds like a lot when you say it out loud. It is a lot. Nicholas set the laptop aside and turned to face her. But Bailey, you also lived on practically nothing for 17 years. You've never had money before. You've never had the chance to learn how to manage it. That doesn't make it okay? No, but it makes it understandable. Nicholas took her hands. You weren't stupid. You weren't wasteful. You were a person who'd been starving her whole life, suddenly faced with an unlimited buffet. Of course you overate. Bailey sniffled. That's a weird metaphor. I'm a CEO, not a poet. He squeezed her hands. Here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow you're meeting with my financial advisor. She's going to help you set up a budget, an investment portfolio, and a plan for the future. You're going to be fine. But I wasted $2 million. You gave over 100,000 of it to people who needed it more than you. Nicholas's voice was firm. That's not waste. That's generosity. You just need to learn to be generous in a way that doesn't sacrifice your own future. I should have known better. How? Nicholas asked simply. Who was supposed to teach you? Mercy? The public school system you weren't allowed to attend? Bailey didn't have an answer for that. And Bailey? Nicholas tilted her chin up, making her look at him. Even if you'd spent all $5 million, I would have given you more. Bailey blinked. What? I'm worth $5 billion. $5 million is a rounding error to me. His voice was matter of fact, no arrogance, just truth. You saved my life. You kept a promise to a dying man about his grandmother's ring. You could spend money every day for the rest of your life, and I would keep giving you more because nothing will ever equal what you did for me. Nick, I'm not saying this to make you feel bad about being careful. I'm saying it so you understand. You are never going to be poor again. Not as long as I'm alive. That's not charity. That's not me trying to buy you. That's just fact. I need everyone to hear what this man just said. Bailey is crying. She's ashamed. She just admitted she spent $2 million in 6 weeks because she never learned how to have money. She thinks she ruined everything. And Nicholas looks at her and says, "Even if you'd spent all 5 million, I would have given you more. You saved my life. Nothing will ever equal that." Not because he's trying to buy her love, not because he's showing off his wealth, because he genuinely believes that what she did for him can never be repaid. That's not a boyfriend. That's not even a partner. That's a man who actually sees her. Comment "This is love" if Nicholas just set a standard. Comment "He sees her" if you finally understand what a healthy relationship looks like. And share this with someone who needs to know that the right person will never make you feel small for your mistakes. They'll help you grow through them. We're almost at the end. Let's finish this. Bailey stared at him, tears still wet on her cheeks. "You can't just say things like that," she whispered. "Why not? It's true." "Because it makes me want to kiss you, and I'm all snotty and gross right now." Nicholas laughed, surprised and delighted. "I don't care about snotty." "You should. It's very snotty." "Bailey." He cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing away her tears. "I love you, snot and all." The words hit her like a wave. "You... what?" "I love you." He said it simply, like it was obvious, like it was easy. I've been trying to figure out how to say it for weeks. I was going to do something elaborate, dinner, flowers, maybe a skywriter, but I think this is better. Real moment, real feelings, no performance. Bailey's heart was pounding. "I love you too," she said. Yes, and the words came out easier than she expected. "I've been scared to say it. Scared you'd think it was too soon, or that I was only saying it because of the money, or—" "It's not too soon," Nicholas interrupted. "And I know you're not saying it because of the money. You called me out, remember? You asked if I liked you or the idea of you. A gold digger wouldn't have risked scaring me off like that." "I'm really not good at this," Bailey admitted. "The relationship thing, the money thing, the everything thing." "Neither am I." Nicholas kissed her forehead. "We'll figure it out together. Now eat your lo mein. We can talk about our feelings more after you've had some carbs." Bailey laughed, a real laugh, wet and hiccuping but genuine. For the first time since she'd seen those numbers on her spreadsheet, she felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. Epilogue. 1 year later. Bailey almost enrolled in high school. For months after the press conference, she'd carried that dream with her, the fantasy that had sustained her through endless delivery shifts and sleepless nights. Someday, I'm going to go back. I'm going to walk into a real high school and experience everything they stole from me. She'd been top of her class when Mercy pulled her out at 13. Straight A's. Teachers loved her. She'd been on track for academic scholarships, for a future that was supposed to be bright and full of possibility. And then it was gone. For 11 years, she'd built high school up in her mind as this magical experience she'd been cheated out of. The classes, the friends, the prom, the graduation. In the normalcy of being a teenager without 3 jobs and a family that treated her like a servant. So when Nicholas asked her what she wanted to do with her life, Bailey's first answer had been, "I want to go back to school, real school, high school." She'd even toured Lincoln High, walked the halls, sat in on a class, met with the principal, who'd been surprisingly supportive about the idea of a 25-year-old enrolling, and suggested she sit in for just a day. And that's when Bailey realized the truth. She was sitting in the back of an AP history class, watching a teacher explain the causes of World War I to a room full of 16-year-olds. Half of them were on their phones. 2 were passing notes. 1 was definitely asleep. This is what I romanticized, Bailey thought. Like, this is what I thought I was missing? She looked around at the posters on the walls, the scuffed linoleum floors, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. She listened to the teenage drama in the hallway. Who was dating whom? Who said what about whom? The endless cycle of petty conflicts that felt world-ending at 16 and meant nothing at 25. I don't belong here. The realization hit her like a bucket of cold water. I've saved a man's life. I've confronted my abuser. I've stood in front of 100 cameras and told my truth. I've built a relationship with someone who sees me, really sees me. And I thought sitting in a classroom with 16-year-olds would heal me? She'd been chasing the wrong thing. High school wasn't going to fix her. Nothing about reliving the past was going to heal what Mercy had taken from her. What she needed wasn't to go backward. It was to go forward. "I'm not enrolling," Bailey told Nicholas that night. "It was a stupid idea." "It wasn't stupid," Nicholas said gently. "It was human. You wanted to experience something you missed." "But I can't actually experience it. Not really. I'm not 16 anymore. I can't unknow everything I know. I can't pretend the last 11 years didn't happen." Bailey ran her hands through her hair. "Sitting in that classroom, I just felt old and sad, and like I was trying to crawl back into a life that was never mine to begin with." "So, what do you want to do instead?" Bailey had been thinking about this all day. "I want to finish my education, for real, but not by pretending I'm a teenager." She pulled out her laptop and showed him what she'd been researching. Community college programs, accelerated degree tracks for adult learners, online courses from accredited universities. "I can get an associate's degree in 2 years," she said, "then transfer to a 4-year university. There's a program at DePaul specifically designed for non-traditional students, people who had to drop out, people who are coming back to education later in life. They actually value life experience." "That sounds perfect." "And while I'm doing that," Bailey pulled up another tab, "I want to start a nonprofit." Nicholas leaned forward, interested. "What kind of nonprofit?" "For kids like me. Kids who get pulled out of school because their families need them to work. Saw kids who fall through the cracks because no one's paying attention." Bailey's voice grew stronger as she spoke. "There are thousands of them, Nick. Kids who are smart and capable and could do amazing things. But they're stuck cleaning houses or stocking shelves because some adult in their life decided their education didn't matter. You want to help them stay in school? I want to help them in whatever way they need. Tutoring, financial support, legal advocacy if their guardians are exploiting them. And for the ones who already dropped out, I want to help them find their way back. Community college scholarships, GED programs, job training." Bailey's eyes were bright. "I want to build the thing I wish had existed when I was 13. Nicholas was quiet for a moment, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What?" Bailey asked. "Nothing, just—" He shook his head, smiling. "You're extraordinary, you know that? I'm just trying to do something useful with all this money you gave me. It's not about the money. It's about you. You could do anything. Travel the world, buy a mansion, never work another day in your life. Instead, you want to help kids who remind you of yourself." He took her hand. "That's not ordinary, Bailey. That's remarkable." Bailey felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Stop. You're making me blush. I'm stating facts." Nicholas kissed her forehead. "Now tell me more about this nonprofit. I might know some people who can help." Several months later, Bailey walked across the stage at Harold Washington College to receive her associate's degree. It wasn't a high school graduation. It wasn't the experience she'd dreamed about as a teenager, surrounded by classmates she'd known for 4 years, wearing a cap and gown in school colors, listening to a valedictorian speech about futures and possibilities. It was better. Bailey was the oldest graduate in her cohort by several years. She'd also finished with a 4.0 GPA, made the dean's list every semester, and been asked to give the student address at the ceremony. She stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd, fellow adult learners, single parents, veterans, immigrants, people who'd taken winding paths to get here, and felt something she'd never felt before. Pride. Real, unqualified pride. "I dropped out of school when I was 13, she said, her voice carrying across the auditorium. "Not by choice. Someone decided that my education didn't matter, that my potential didn't matter, that I didn't matter." She saw Nicholas in the front row, beaming at her. Beside him sat his grandmother Louise, 81 years old and still terrifying, who had become an unexpected ally in Bailey's nonprofit work. She'd even donated the seed money. For 11 years, I believed that person was right. I believed I was worthless, that I'd missed my chance, that it was too late for me. Bailey gripped the podium. "I was wrong. It's never too late. You are never too old, too tired, too beaten down to start again. The life you want is still possible. The education you deserve is still within reach. And the person you could become is still waiting for you to show up. She looked directly at the audience, at the 50-year-old woman in the third row who'd told Bailey she was getting her degree so her grandchildren would see that education mattered, at the young father in the back who'd worked night shifts to attend classes during the day, at all the people who'd been told in one way or another that they weren't enough. "We're here," Bailey said. "Against all odds, through all obstacles, we're here. And that means everything they said about us was wrong. We matter. Our education matters. Our futures matter." She held up her diploma. "This is proof. This is evidence. This is us, standing up and saying, 'We're not done yet. We're just getting started.'" The applause was thunderous. After the ceremony, Aunt Bailey was surrounded by well-wishers, classmates, professors, Nicholas pulling her into a crushing hug. "That speech," he said into her hair, "that was incredible." "I almost threw up beforehand," Bailey admitted. "Public speaking is still terrifying." "You'd never know it. You looked like you'd been doing this your whole life." "Miss Monroe?" A woman's voice cut through the crowd. Bailey turned to find a well-dressed woman in her 40s extending her hand. "I'm Patricia Webb. I'm on the board of the Chicago Community Foundation." "Oh, yes, I've heard of you. Your foundation does amazing work." "As does yours, from what I understand." Patricia's smile was warm. "I've been following the Monroe Foundation since you announced it. Off the work you're doing with educational advocacy for kids, it's groundbreaking." "We're just getting started," Bailey said. "We've only been operating for 4 months. And you've already helped 17 kids stay in school and placed 12 adults in GED programs. That's remarkable for a new organization." Patricia pulled out a business card. "I'd like to discuss a partnership. The Chicago Community Foundation has resources and connections that could help you scale your impact significantly." Bailey took the card, slightly dazed. Yes, absolutely. I'd love that." "Excellent. My assistant will call you Monday to set up a meeting." Patricia shook her hand again. "Congratulations on your degree, Miss Monroe, and on everything else you're building." She disappeared into the crowd. Bailey stared at the business card. "Did that just happen?" "That just happened." Nicholas was grinning. "You're officially a person that important people want to meet with." "That's terrifying. That's success." He put his arm around her. "Come on. Louise is demanding we take her to dinner to celebrate, and you know how she gets when she's kept waiting." "She scares me." "She scares everyone. That's her superpower." Nicholas guided her toward the exit. "But she also told me this morning that you're the best thing that's happened to this family since Eleanor. So I think you're in her good graces." Bailey felt tears prick her eyes. "She said that?" Direct quote. "She also said you have a spine like rebar and a heart like a marshmallow, which I think is a compliment." Bailey laughed, wiping her eyes. "It definitely is." 2 years later, Bailey walked across another stage, this time at DePaul University, receiving her bachelor's degree in nonprofit management. The Monroe Foundation had grown beyond anything she'd imagined. They'd helped over 300 kids stay in school. They'd placed over 100 adults in education programs. They'd successfully advocated for stronger laws protecting minors from educational neglect. And Bailey had done it all while finishing her own education, while building a relationship with Nicholas, while learning, slowly, how to be a person who deserved good things. After the ceremony, there was a reception at a fancy hotel downtown, the kind of place Bailey never would have felt comfortable entering a few years ago. Now she walked through the doors like she belonged there. Because she did. "Bailey Monroe?" She turned to find a young woman, maybe 19 or 20, hovering nervously nearby. "Yes?" "I'm sorry to bother you. The young woman took a breath. "My name is Destiny. I was one of the first kids your foundation helped. 3 years ago, I was about to drop out of high school to work full-time because my mom was sick and we needed the money. Your foundation paid for a home health aide so I could stay in school." Bailey remembered. Destiny Williams, 16 years old, straight-A student, on the verge of sacrificing everything because her family was drowning. "Destiny," Bailey breathed. "Oh my God, you graduated?" Last year. Full scholarship to University of Illinois. Destiny's eyes were wet. I'm studying to be a social worker. I want to help kids like me, not like you helped me. Bailey pulled her into a hug. I'm so proud of you. I wouldn't be here without you. Destiny's voice was muffled against Bailey's shoulder. You changed my life. You gave me a future. No. Bailey pulled back, holding Destiny at arm's length, looking into her eyes. I gave you an opportunity. You did the rest. You stayed in school. You studied. You worked hard. You earned that scholarship. That was all you. Destiny wiped her eyes. Can I work for your foundation? After I graduate? I want to be part of what you're building. Yes. Bailey didn't even hesitate. Absolutely yes. We need people like you. People who understand what it's like. People who can look a scared kid in the eye and say, I've been where you are, and there's a way out. Destiny laughed, still crying. Thank you, and thank you so much. They hugged again, and Bailey thought about the journey that had brought her here. The burning car, the promise, the ring, Nicholas, the press conference, the money she'd almost wasted, the high school she'd almost attended, the education she'd actually gotten, the foundation she'd built. All of it had led to this moment, to standing in a fancy hotel in a graduation gown, hugging a young woman whose life she'd helped change. This is what it's for, Bailey realized. All of it, the pain and the struggle and the growth. It was all so I could be here, doing this, making a difference. Nicholas appeared at her elbow. Everything okay? Everything's perfect. Bailey smiled at him, then at Destiny. Nick, this is Destiny Williams. She's going to work for the foundation after she graduates. Welcome to the team, Nicholas said, shaking Destiny's hand. Fair warning, Bailey's a demanding boss. I am not. She made me reorganize the entire filing system last week. It was a mess, Destiny laughed. I can handle it. I've survived worse. Haven't we all, Bailey thought. And look at us now. That night, Bailey and Nicholas sat on the balcony of their penthouse, because Bailey had finally accepted that she lived there too. Looking out at the Chicago skyline. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? Bailey asked. If I hadn't stopped that night? If I'd just driven past like Ariel wanted? Sometimes. Nicholas pulled her closer. But then I remember that you'd never have driven past. It's not who you are. I almost did. For a second, I almost listened to her. But you didn't. And that's what matters. He kissed her temple. You stopped. You saved me. And now, because of that one decision, hundreds of kids have futures they wouldn't have had otherwise. That's a lot of pressure to put on one decision. It's not pressure, it's legacy. Nicholas turned her face toward his. You asked me once if I liked you or the idea of you, remember? I remember. I've spent 2 years getting to know the real you, the one who's terrible at karaoke but insists on doing it anyway, the one who cries at dog food commercials, the one who still has nightmares about being poor and wakes up needing me to remind her she's safe. Bailey's breath caught. I like you, Nicholas said simply. All of you. The idea I had that night, the mysterious angel, she was nothing compared to the reality. You're better, messier, more complicated, more human. He reached into his pocket. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. He opened a velvet box. Inside was Eleanor's ring. The sapphire caught the city lights, sparkling blue and gold, just as beautiful as it had been the night Bailey had pulled it from a burning car. Nick. My grandmother wore this ring for 50 years. She told me to give it to someone worthy, someone brave, someone who keeps their promises. His voice was thick. I can't think of anyone more worthy than you. Bailey was crying. You kept it? This whole time? I've been waiting for the right moment. I thought about doing something elaborate. Skyriders, flash mobs, the whole thing. But that's not us. We're not elaborate. We're real. He took her hand. So here I am, on our balcony, in our home, asking you to marry me. Not because you saved my life, though you did. Because you make my life worth living. Because I can't imagine a future that doesn't have you in it. Bailey looked at the ring, at Nicholas, at the city spread out below them, full of people whose lives she was helping to change. She thought about everything she'd survived, the parents she'd lost, the childhood that had been stolen from her, the years of servitude and exhaustion and invisible suffering, and she thought about everything she'd gained: education, purpose, love, a family she'd chosen instead of one she'd been trapped in. Yes, she said. Obviously, yes. Were you actually worried I'd say no? Nicholas laughed, relieved and joyful. A little bit? Emotionally constipated, Bailey teased, even as tears streamed down her face. Your grandmother was right. She usually is. He slid the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, like it had been waiting for her all along. I love you, Bailey Monroe. I love you too, Nicholas Phil. She kissed him, long and sweet and full of promise. Now stop making me cry. I have a foundation to run and a wedding to plan and apparently a lifetime of happiness to figure out. We'll figure it out together. Together, Bailey agreed. And they did. Bailey had every reason to become bitter, to become selfish, to become cruel. She'd been exploited for 17 years, denied education, worked to exhaustion, told she was worthless, abandoned on the side of the road by the cousin she'd sacrificed everything for. She had every excuse. And yet, she stopped for a stranger. She kept a promise. She showed grace to people who showed her none. And she built something that will outlast her. That's not luck. That's not money. That's character. If this story meant something to you, I need you to do 3 things. First, like this video so more people can find Bailey's story. Second, comment and tell me your favorite moment. Was it the rescue, the hand scene, the press conference, the proposal? I want to know what hit you the hardest. Third, share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late. Someone who thinks they've missed their chance. Someone who's been told they're worthless. Send them Bailey's story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in her. I'll see you in the next one.